All right, thanks everyone for joining episode 5 of Golden Ticket Connections. Today we have David Mendoza. And again, I'm the host, Kason. We got Mohammed, co-host.
What's up, everyone?
Um, so today, we're going to talk a little bit about cybersecurity. Just a little bit about David Mendoza. He's currently working at Bosch as the cybersecurity product manager. And, he's worked for Ford and I think Mercedes, it looked like. So we're really excited to hear from David today.
Yes, pleasure to have you guys today. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, so David, so just to start off, I'm just curious, like, how did what was your journey like to your current role? How did you end up there?
Yeah, it's my first. I've had actually, I think, 5 internships. So my first internships was at Quicken Loans, doing IT networking. So doing desktop build outs, deflashing laptops for Quicken Loans, and I had a wonderful experience. I got to meet Dan Gilbert, being on executive board, IT support. So to meet the executive team was phenomenal. I worked at Workforce Software, deploying laptops and sending updates. That was amazing to learn. And then from there, I got a internship at Mercedes-Benz, and I worked there. And I worked in the data center for whitelisting and blacklisting firewalls, networking. I was part of the digital infrastructure transformation, creating so all dealerships could collect payments from 24 hours a day. Previously, they can only collect payments until 5 p.m. North American time. So we created a round-robin server, escalated to the cloud at the time, and it was a wonderful team to be a part of. COVID had hit. I had planned on continuing my career at Mercedes, and I got picked up by Ford. And at Ford, I was a cybersecurity architect working on future products, V2X, preemption, so emergency vehicles can hack streetlights and control streetlights if they need it. Really awesome experience there. In my current role, I work in chassis controls, so braking, airbags, power distribution controllers, microcontrollers for Bosch, and Perfectly Keyless, which is a mobile app I'm currently working on so that you will no longer need car keys. So ultra-wideband Bluetooth technologies, mobile apps for Bosch. So pretty wide sphere of automotive background.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
that's awesome.
just to take it back a few steps,
Mhm.
you're Eastern Michigan graduate, am I correct?
Yes.
Awesome. Another Eastern Michigan graduate here, both Eagles. You were one of the, probably the first people to maybe enroll in the cybersecurity program, or were you in another program? You're in cybersecurity.
No, I had started in Eastern Michigan. I actually switched to the University of Michigan to study data science, the School of Information. And I went back to Eastern to complete it because it was one of the best programs for cybersecurity.
Yeah.
And I'm currently at Berkeley for a master's of cybersecurity in California. So
Awesome. So that's 2 bachelors and a master's.
Wow.
yeah,
Congrats.
Awesome. And when you were, so I know cybersecurity students here, Eastern Michigan students here, when we're, with each other, we're just thinking of, where's our next job? Where's our next opportunity going to be? And then we just get overwhelmed by all the different divisions of cybersecurity. So when you, went into the auto manufacturers from the very beginning, from that internship at Mercedes, what led you there and what kept you there?
So I applied 100 places all over the country. I had some hits and grabs to work in California. I had some friends who went to the East Coast, but Mercedes-Benz to me is one of the ultimate cars to work for. So German engineering is very well known globally. They are probably the gold standard next to the Japanese as far as engineering builds. And what kept me there in automotive manufacturing is kind of proximity. In Michigan, I'd say that some of the top companies are Ford, General Motors, Chrysler, which is now Stellantis. And being part of a global team was really appealing to me. The possibility of going to Europe and traveling, going to Stuttgart and Ansbach, Bittenheim, Salzgitter, all these German places have been really awesome.
Awesome. Just a side question here. When you were working with Mercedes, did you have to drive a Mercedes to be, one of the requirements to work there?
I didn't have one for a personal car, but I could take out any car I want every weekend as long as I wrote a paper about it. So one of the programs that was there was you can drive any car. I got to take a G-Wagon to Toronto.
Nice.
The CIO at the time allowed me to drive his car. I took out a C-Class. I took my girlfriend in a GLC at the time. I've drove a lot of their cars, the S-Class, C-Class, G-Class. wonderful machines, truly wonderful.
Yes. Can you forward us the Mercedes application right after this podcast? I want to apply.
We can talk, we can discuss further steps of what you're going to need.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So are you a car guy then, or
Yeah, no, I'm a fourth generation Detroit auto worker. So
okay?
grandfather
Wow.
worked, my father's father worked for Ford for 40 years at the River Rouge plant, and my father's about to hit 40 years at Chrysler in the Sterling Heights assembly plant. And then my oldest sister's actually supply chain management for 10 years at Chrysler as well. So many years of manufacturing since 1925. My family's been in Detroit building
Awesome.
cars.
Awesome.
Wow.
So all of that car knowledge. What was the the different things that added on the computers that drove you into cybersecurity? Different factors that were added
Um,
in.
I'll tell you a little bit of history. So I had enlisted in the Marine Corps when I was 17, and I actually got a medical discharge. But my commanding officer said, if you're going to go to school, if you're going to do this, you should probably get paid to do it. You should probably find the highest paying degree. And at the time, the number one degree was be a doctor, be a lawyer, and then number three was cybersecurity at the time. And so I chose the highest paying. I did monetary, but I kind of fell in love with the process and the people and going to conferences, Linux CodeMash in Ohio, GerCon in Grand Rapids, DEF CON in Las Vegas. Being a part of all those conferences really, pulled me in.
So
Gotcha.
it was the money that started in, but and then
Yeah.
you fell in love with the process. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Way cool. So, what led you to Ford, and what did you like about working for Ford?
First of all, I was a legacy because my grandfather had done 40 years at River Rouge, so that was pretty cool. Looking up his
Mhm.
records and seeing the database of him, and then Ford had a lot of cool. I worked on the Mach E on different microcontrollers, building architectures. So electric vehicles are really kind of ramping up. There's different rules and regulations, the ISO 21434, R155, the European Union, so that we have cleaner, safer cars. And cybersecurity just hit at that same time. Like there's a peak of new innovation of engineering, and then cybersecurity is coming at the same time. Now, on top of cybersecurity, we have AI, we have all these other components, machine learning that are all getting implemented. And it's fairly new. The engineers don't really know fully how it's supposed to work, long term maintenance. So I came at the right time actually to graduate college and get into auto manufacturing.
Yeah, with all of these different components, like in our current time, AI, machine learning, cybersecurity, different threats rising up. Everyone's jumping on Hacker One right now, and everybody's a hacker.
Mhm.
What is some advice you would give for like maybe the college students so trying to put their foot in the door? Are they too late? Is the industry too hard right now to get into? It's too much. All different industries are requiring lots of years of experience, or it's never too late to barge into something
I
like
think
this.
everyone is going to have a unique experience in cybersecurity. I mean, I know people who have no degrees, who have 20 certifications, who are working next to me. And then I have different levels of people. Excuse me one second. I lost the screen and I'm coming right back. Okay, I'm
You're
back.
good.
Sorry. Sorry, I got a text message there. So my advice to people coming in for from college graduates who want to be in cybersecurity, one, there are a few limits. So if you're only limited to your region, let's suppose you're in Missouri, you're in New York City, you're going to have to do the industries that exist there. So New York City has fashion, Detroit, we're auto manufacturers, California is entertainment. So you're going to have to be limited to what your region is. So if you open your mind to traveling, we have people I graduated with who are in Sweden, who are in California, who are in Thailand doing cybersecurity. So first is open your mind to the possibility of travel, if that's what you're looking for. That'd be the biggest thing for limitations for getting a job. The second is that people have a debate: should you get a degree? Should you be certified? I got certified at Michigan. I did the Nexus program. Great base. I felt a lot of it was carryover from what I did in my undergrad. It was kind of like a refresher course for someone who had been inside of it. And now in my master's program, I'm really understanding the management role of, operating with money, planning things, leading an engineering team. The leading in maintenance is something the master's has really been giving me lately. Um, Another advice I would have is, you're going to be told no 100 times. That's just going to come with the territory. And then depending on where you're born, there's security clearances that have you need to be a U.S. citizen. So if you're a U.S. citizen, that may be a factor of getting a government contracting job. So there are limitations to cybersecurity. Not everyone can do it. So if you were born in Canada, you may not be granted the clearance without a waiver, and that may stop you. So there are limitations. There are ways to expand your kind of your scope of what you can get. And I mean, we need more people. And there's always talk. I think there's a lot of hype in cybersecurity right now. I think it's kind of the new wave that people are following, but it's still very much so needed. People who can develop secure code, people who can do risk management, GRC, interpret the laws. That is a huge process that not many people really know how to do well.
Yes.
Mhm.
So again, emphasizing on the degree versus certifications.
Sure.
Where do you stand on that?
Personally, I continued my education to a master's degree because I want to one day be a chief information officer. Um, I personally think the degree helps, but it's the networking. The reason I did the degree at Berkeley, it's in Silicon Valley, it's in California. I'm with some of the best, companies out there: Facebook, Google, Amazon, Mountain View, California, Sunnyvale, California, San Jose. The whole West Coast really sets the gold standard of how to do things correctly in software. Now, I'm from Detroit. I believe we have a gold standard of manufacturing. But coming from a German engineering company, I've learned from Bosch. I've worked with Toyota, Ford, Mercedes, Maserati, Ferrari. I've seen what people do right and wrong, and having that wide scope of globally understanding how products are built, architectures, security features. I feel well rounded.
Mhm. So if you were to go back, would you choose to get your degree or would you go the certificate side? Is it just mostly the networking
Personally, I
or
would still do the computer, not computer engineering, but cybersecurity degree because we're the College of Technology, a division of
right?
engineering at Eastern. I would continue to do the degree because classmates I have are working at Dolby. Tomas Banya is at Dolby Pictures encrypting movies. Wally Daljani is a cybersecurity consultant for Ernst and Young in what's the city called? He's in Deutschland, and he's all over Europe right now doing amazing things. So it was such a very small knit group when we started. I started the cybersecurity program in 2014 when it was information assurance. And as I graduated, each year it changed the names to cyber
Yeah,
defense, cybersecurity, and it's had many evolutions as I've started.
it finally reached cybersecurity. When I started, it was information assurance and cyber defense. When I
Mhm.
graduated, they finally made it cybersecurity.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Big evolution.
So, from finance wise, you said that you started out in the money, or money motivated you, but then you fell in love with the process. What are some average salaries for entry level positions? What are some expectations based off of where you are from on a cybersecurity? What are different companies? I know Ford was offering entry level. The FCG program, Ford College Grad, was starting at 90K. That was 10K above the market average. That is for any college grad, which was 80. In our current year.
Mhm.
So, what makes this different in this? What are the different factors to consider?
So I would say the first thing is when you're starting out, you can't really chase the money. My first internship at Quicken Loans was $10 an hour, and that was nothing. That would cover the
Mhm.
to go to Detroit and back from where I was in Eastern and Ipsy. Um, the first thing you want to really do is not learn the tools, not learn that. You want to learn the process. How can I actually problem solve? You want to learn the skills and then be able to articulate not only do you have a problem, but how do I solve it? So I think a lot of people feel like, hey, I know how to use Black Duck. I can use certain types of penetration testing. I know CrowdStrike. I know how to do analysis, but that's not quite enough. You need to really know how to see it, how to fix it, maybe reverse engineer it, and then you're starting to truly trust the process and know how things work full cycle. That would be my advice.
Yeah, a great
Mhm.
word of advice our professors used to always tell us was so certifications and degree
Mhm.
can reach you to the door, but personal projects is the way to go. So, where do
Mhm.
you stand on personal? People doing personal projects. Is it worth their time? Is it not?
I started doing personal projects, but life had happened. I had gotten a girlfriend. I had started doing part-time jobs to, while working in engineering to pay for it. So it's to each his own. For me, it's the biggest thing to get a job is who you know. If you know someone at Google and they're writing you a letter of recommendation, you probably have a jump on the other 1,000 applicants who don't have that. So
Yes.
it's the people who get you in. It's the paper helps, but there's many ways to get to that door.
Mhm. And to bounce off of that, going back to internships, so,
Mhm.
what's your take on internships? Because I know a lot of people that, they put off their internship. They don't really
Yeah.
see the value in internships. So what's your take on that?
I think it's very critical to have those skills from the start. There's a university in Michigan called Kettering. Every semester they work and then they go to school. And what you do at work correlates with what you did in school. So I think that's a brilliant program every semester, on and off, working and school. And eventually you can pay for your degree, which is a wonderful way to go about it. I think 3 out of my 4 years at the university, I had been in internships, and each one led me something, taught me a new skill, and taught me, met different people. And some people I still contact today about questions about cybersecurity.
Gotcha.
Because
And
I'm sorry, I just
go ahead.
wanted to
No, go for it.
build off of that. So right now you have finally reached, that management position. You started out, with all this internship, and now you're at that management position.
Mhm.
When me still, fresh off the boat, of entry level and all this stuff, just finishing off interns. So I've never had this experience in particular, but I know I can vouch for lots of who have, even when they're large companies like maybe Ford or um, Chrysler, GM, they would say that, okay, we started our internship for 3 months, but we barely did any work. There was our management was supervisor was too busy with other tasks, and was our it was very light work, just showing up, bending out messages. It's hard to interact within that small period of time. I want to hear your opinion from an intern, a previous intern, and now from a manager position.
Sure. Coming from the intern, I was in a data center, so I really wasn't truly doing cybersecurity work, but I had convinced my manager how passionate I was about cybersecurity. So I actually met a engineer at Mercedes, Kevin Mitchell, who I work with today from ETOS and Bosch. So me and him, we discussed, we're going to do an audit today. Let's walk through how we're going to do an audit for Mercedes-Benz Financial Services. And the skills he taught me, I still use today. The threat modeling process that we built as interns, I worked on a mobile app, creating a version of LinkedIn for Mercedes so they can find the correct talent pools. I think the networking, not only just where you're sitting at, you're going to have to contact people like, oh, I have an email address that says at Ford.com. You can leverage your position to meet the people who have the doors. I feel there's a lot of gatekeepers who want to keep you where you're at. And if your manager's too busy, maybe try a different manager who's doing a different role and ask them, do you have space for me? If not, can you spend a day, an hour, and let me pick your brain? And I would say 7 out of 10 times they'll say yes. There are, you know, manufacturing is very timeline driven. Every year a new car comes out, there are updates, there's maintenance that's needed. So we are limited on time as automotive engineers. But as an intern level, I would say leverage your position, leverage where you're at. You're with some brilliant people in all hardware, software, calibration, different divisions that maybe you find a role that better suits you from internship perspective. That's the first question. Now you want to know as a manager level. For me, I've switched divisions at Bosch. I was in chassis control. Now I'm in more mobile apps and power distribution controllers. So for me, it was I had to go find global teams in Brazil, in Europe, in Japan, and China to find documentation to fill different criteria needs. And then I said, how do you complete your project? How do you estimate engineering hours? There's different formulas. Even though we're at the same company, sometimes the right hand does not talk to the left hand. So that's something that seems to be a big problem in global companies. But if you have that ability and the time, you can make it work.
So just the small follow up. I know I've taken
Mhm.
too much of the case in
No, you're
2 years.
good. Please.
You good?
So from the manager perspective,
Mhm.
you hired an intern who's working under you.
Yes.
How? So college teaches us, and we're both Eastern Michigan graduates. When college is tries to build the fundamentals, and I'm sure lots of college grads can vouch for this for me. but sometimes failed from different timelines. So our cybersecurity program was most likely developed in 2010 or 12,
Right.
and then teaching it to me in 2021, where cybersecurity one of the most escalating fields in our current era. That doesn't really do me any good when you're teaching me about SQL injection attacks, which has been patched years ago. So this student who's coming from college over, and you have 3 months, and you are dedicated and to build this internship posture, confidence, all of it. How do you do it? Just
I would say first
rough.
you need a game plan. So week one, learn my job. What is it expectations from my manager, and what are expectations for myself? From your manager, he's going to say, I want you to complete, I want you to write code. I want you to create threat models. I want you to do some type of analysis. I want you to create an Excel, create me a spreadsheet, a PowerPoint. So know your expectations from both ends. Now you have your own personal expectations. I want to work in, like you said, cross-site scripting. I want to be a penetration tester. Try to get that FaceTime with the people who are actually doing it and say, what's been your struggles? What have you been struggling with? And try to say, what have you solved this year? Is there anything that you solved? And then when you go back to school, because you're going to go back after your internship, maybe you talk with the professor, hey, this happened. What's your opinion on it? You did a dissertation on cross-site scripting. We patched it, but there's still in many, like, how do you mass solve a problem? If I can solve one computer, can I do it over the air update to solve everyone's problem simultaneously? And how do I validate that? There's many questions that can be followed up once you find a problem and a solution. Did
Hmm.
that answer it? I'm sorry.
Yeah, no,
Mhm.
100%. So you said I can conclude starting with the game plan and
Mhm.
then working way up. Like,
Mhm.
okay, week one we're gonna have this 12-week plans, which Ford did kind of draw out, but it's just the managers are maybe not everyone's the same,
Right.
and so lots of people would be like, okay, I have work to do. If I want to sit and teach it to the person in front of me, it would, instead of 2 hours, it would take me four. Instead of four, it would take me eight. Now I just do it for 4 hours and have him shadow me, and then the person in front of them doesn't understand much of what's happening. And any questions? No. And then we just move on. So so that soft skill, that confidence, asking the questions and following the game plan. Okay, so what week one we're doing this, week two we're doing that, and then just expanding the network of your inner circle. It started with you and your supervisor coworker, and then just keep expanding that tree is the way to build gain the most knowledge out of these 3 months.
Well,
Hmm.
sometimes your division may not have a role for you. Maybe you're just planned to be 3 months. That can be expanded. So suppose you're a cybersecurity architect and you've been pronounced that hardware needs a guy to do flashing. So it's not directly cybersecurity, but you're still in the company. And when the day comes to transfer over, you now know hardware and you know software. So you understand how to use the tools, what's being done at the different layers. The OSI model, the 7 layers: application, presentation, going through the whole line. To know all the layers truly is a master of cybersecurity. That's something that I think people don't really talk as much about anymore, and it needs to be discussed.
Yes, in my current company,
Mm-hmm.
network security is probably the most important layer. It's maybe the most only layer that we truly care about.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, like I agree. Like I'm sorry, I didn't even think I introduced myself to you. I
Mm-hmm.
work with Tamaki Control, who are we? Cybersecurity. Well, we're IT and OT, automation engineers and infrastructure engineers who will get contracted out to different manufacturer sites in throughout North America. So we, on my side, my current position, I'm IT support and security. So I would go and give, do security audits, security consultation, IT support for these different manufacturers based off their needs. So when it comes to the security consultation side of things, they focus mainly on the network security. Like, is our network private, closed, firewalls in and out, everything is secure within, and nothing can come in? Yes. Okay, then that's it. But there's still the encryption side of things. There's still the hardware itself. A site in front of our current site that we support was breached probably 2 months ago because of a person who took their work laptop home and installed a malware on accident, of course, surfaced on the dark web, probably installed when he didn't even know. and then went back to the site, plugged into that Ethernet. Now the malware encrypted his hard drive and all servers on site. So these type of things we don't take into consideration. So, like you said, mastering the 7 layers of the model is maybe the most basic thing, but it's the most important thing to take into consideration.
Hmm. And I think so. Kind of moving on a little bit, David, would you mind telling us a little bit about your current role? Like, what do you do day to day at Bosch?
Sure. So I meet with different OEMs and I do acquisitions, I do maintenance, I do three stages, so production, staging, and then long-term maintenance of vehicles. Some things that are already on the road, we perform fast over-the-air updates to do software patching. New vehicles have new security features, secure flashing, trusted boot, runtime manipulation, secure event logging, intrusion prevention, intrusion detection. We develop features to the requirements of the OEMs. So I interpret the requirements, I build them out for between software, hardware, in different divisions at the company at Bosch, and then together we come together with solutions and we deliver the product depending on whether I'm working on a perfectly keyless, which is a NFC card that you can use to unlock your car or start your car, or on
Hmm.
the power distribution controller, a secondary power in case your electrical vehicle dies and you need something to get you to the next location. So different layers. Did that answer the question? I'm sorry.
Yeah, it did. And to kind of just follow up on that, like, what do you enjoy most about your job, and
Mhm.
what's difficult?
I think I had an opportunity in the airbag units to work on the Tesla Cybertruck before it came out. Being
Oh, cool.
be around that, getting to talk to the guys in California, reviewing Lucid Tesla, seeing what their ideas of how manufacturing should be done, seeing great architecture built by Toyota, seeing BMW and Mercedes build cars, and seeing their requirements. It's pretty awesome to be global picture. I mean, I do a Ford F-150 and I do a Ferrari. That
Hmm.
type of change is phenomenal to see. One is hand built in Italy, totally different architecture, different secure concerns, and then another is built right here, Flat Rock. You know what I'm saying? Nine Mound is where the Rams built, and being on site to the manufacturing plants is really cool to see something come from a piece of steel all the way to a fully built car is really cool to see.
How do you see different companies interact with cybersecurity as a whole, like their security posture? Like, how do you
Mhm.
see Ford react to it towards versus Ferrari in Italy or Mercedes in Germany?
Um, Everyone really has a different approach. I think the Japanese, the Toyotas, the Lexus, they have this old style of engineering where if there's a problem, you fix it immediately and you design security by design. They really are really great at manufacturing. But Mercedes and BMW also do great engineering. They do many quality verification, validation testing. The German engineering way, the V&V model, is brilliant. And then in Detroit, it's an amalgamation of all these different people and global, solutions. So I can't really say one is better than other. That'd be a bit biased. But just being here and being centralized in a city like Detroit is really great to learn what expectations are. So it's difficult to say. You ask a tough question. I hope I didn't walk around the answer, but gave you some type of solution.
No, it was expected answer. Like there's no right answer when it comes to security. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I like to secure my home in 1, 2, 3 ways,
Mm-hmm.
and you like to secure yours. If I get breached, I interact with it, in this form. If you do it in that.
So when you give that example, so like here in the United States, well, we have a ring camera system, we have a fence, we have a front door, we lock our windows. In Mexico, they build these giant walls, 10-foot walls, and they put glass on the top of them. So that's
Hmm.
another layer of security that we don't need. It would benefit us, but there also are limitations, cost,
100%.
location, expectations. We could build a perfect secure product, but who would buy it? It'd be too expensive. So you have to know your limitations of what people need and what you can sell and what you can buy.
Yeah. Just to piggyback on that last comment, who do you think spends the most on security?
Um, that's a really good question. Truly, the biggest security team in Detroit is General Motors, from what I've seen. They have many security engineers for General Motors. Um, It's tough. The Italian manufacturers, so like the F1 race cars, they outsource to different IT companies to do a lot of their security engineering.
Yeah.
And then here in North America, Ford, Stellantis, and then we have cross pollination. Maybe someone it works 2 years at GM and then he switches to Ford. There's a lot of cross pollination with all these companies. So it's tough to say. There may be an engineer who's been 10 years Volkswagen, and then 10 years at Mercedes, and they carry over what they've learned at each. So
Yeah.
it's difficult with the cross pollination to say who has more or less. But I know in Detroit at General Motors, they have the most amount of actual security engineers.
Yeah. And what is the most challenging part about your job? That thing that you just hate to do, or maybe things that is the hardest thing to do.
I'd say it was pretty hard. Is sometimes I'll get like a 10,000 page requirement sheet that I have to read in Italian or German, get it
Oh,
translated, and I have to get that done and provide the GRC compliance. We have a lot of audits. I'm sure you've heard of Boeing had some quality issues, and there's a lot of safety and security doing to being in an auto manufacturing. The audits are quite challenging at times. Sometimes we lose sight of the actual product just to meet the audits. If that makes sense.
Mhm. So where do you see yourself, in your career, like maybe 5 years from now? Do you see yourself, staying in, kind of the automotive industry or like, manufacturing, or do you plan on going somewhere else?
I've learned a great deal in auto manufacturing. One of the luxuries I have right now is I'm working with companies in Silicon. So Android on Sync is coming to Ford vehicles, and being able to talk to Google guys really opens your mind on what they're doing and how they're handling
Mhm.
the process.
yeah,
So possibly, some of the big four, Google, Meta, those companies could possibly in my possible future. But engineering manufacturing seems to be the place for me for this time being. Maybe a director level, a higher level than I'm currently at. Maybe an engineering manager in 5 years' time. We shall see with education and what the availability is.
yeah.
Gotcha.
Uh, we see AI, we hear about it a lot, in our daily lives. When are we going to see it, interact with vehicles as a whole? So we know Tesla started and implementing some sort of AI to accumulate the insurance. Maybe if you know more about this than I do, please step in and correct me.
I've worked on some prototype projects when I was at Mercedes. Um, there were some cool things. I'm not sure if I can really disclose those, to be honest. It might
Oh
get
yes, please be
subject
comfortable.
thing on the AI for Mercedes. Might
Mhm.
not be able to talk about those, but we have a lot of AI. Siri is becoming Apple Intelligence has just come out. How is that going to affect the way we drive? We have autonomous driving was a really big project that has been pulled back. I don't think we really understood how much that's going to take to make that fully work, fully autonomous vehicles. But autonomy isn't new. Planes have had autonomy since the 1930s and 40s to, track the airplanes and not crash into each other. So not a new topic, but something that's currently being redefined.
Can
Back,
you can
yeah,
you
go ahead.
expand on autonomous driving for the people who don't know, like me?
Okay, so there are, I believe, 5 levels of autonomy. One is kind of your cruise control, like
Yeah,
you don't have to put your foot on the gas, and then level 2 is you don't you can have your hands touching the steering wheel, and it is controlling how you scale the road. Level 3 is no hands. Level 4 is no seat, so you can completely do a 360 on your seat, play a game of cards, take a nap in your vehicle. And level 5 is there is no steering wheel. It is a completely automated vehicle. And
yeah.
they're doing tests in Europe for all levels, different countries. Don't know if I have the privilege to tell you which ones and what locations, because they're still in a entry level or prototype form.
Why does Tesla excel in this autonomy in the four? I think it's reached the third or fourth stage of the autonomous driving towards the big three in America.
That's tough to say. If Elon sees this, I don't know how he'll feel. I think he has great, California engineers in Texas and the West Coast really do things differently. They are really progress focused. Fast updates was pretty much pioneered by him to do, when COVID had hit our manufacturers, we were stuck. with our microchips, but Tesla was using over-the-air updates. He really changed the industry in that sense. To compliment Elon on that, what they're doing better, I think their developers are just, I don't want to just say better, but they have a better holistic understanding that everything is interconnected. Now, do they do quality testing as well as Detroit? You can see there's quality issues in the manufacturing process. They haven't perfected that quite yet, but I'm sure they will surpass us at some point. They definitely shook up the industry.
What would you say if someone were to argue that it's not that the developers at Tesla have reached this amount of knowledge that developers at Ford or GM or Chrysler have not, but it's the view of the company that they don't see this direction opened yet. They don't see people. It's so we all know, like you mentioned the Mach-E in the beginning, where we Ford tried to jump on the bandwagon of electric vehicles and tried to be the first and the company to spread out electric vehicles and have consumer wide, just everyone's on electric now. And the Mach E was the baby product, the best product, their demo, and they give it out. Yet when I was with them, they were suffering from not seeing consumer behavior go up with electric vehicles, but kind of go down. It's just the impression of the American people. We just don't trust electric vehicles yet. We love hybrid, not electric. So when it came to self-driving, it was towards this kind of the same mentality. We don't want to invest all this time and money, and then not have people be like, no, a self-driving car, hell no. I'm going over with my car where I get the.
Do you want to hear a funny story? Actually, I can tell you a quick funny story.
Yeah.
So I was at the Lightning truck, the F-150, and I said, "How many here own an electric vehicle?" I said in the global meeting, and I think there was 3 people. And I said, "How do you expect the world to buy these cars if you don't buy them?"
Exactly.
And I was called, I was reprimanded for asking that question, but it's a real question. If we ourselves don't expect to drive a hybrid or an electric vehicle, how can we expect the world to accept it as well? So I think there was a rush, there is some hype. I think there's some government push for us to meet these climate change expectations globally. I do think there are some benefits, but if you do your history, your homework on manufacturing, getting the zinc, pulling out these, fine minerals that it takes to build a lithium battery, the lithium mining, it's actually more pollutant to the world. But this is a direction that we've been pushed. These are things that come from a higher power than myself. And yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yep. But back on the
Mhm.
Tesla, the autonomous driving side of things,
Mhm.
do you think that the big three don't want to? So you argue that the developers. I'm standing on the side of it's a company view.
I think everything. I mean, if you've ever been in a Tesla meeting, they have a lot of rules where if you have nothing to say, you shouldn't be in that meeting. They have a lot of great engineering rules. If you should come prepared, you should know what you're doing. You should give 5 things to benefit you. They have a lot of great processes. Truly do.
Yeah.
They sell a lot of the data, so they collect a lot of data on the road while you drive, and they sell it to the big 3 and all around the world of how the roads are. When should you warranty a product? They have a lot of data that's collected that you may not even notice. They have their rear view cameras when you change lanes can read the road. No one is doing that, truly. I do think, though, we all have something to learn from each other. Being at Bosch, I get to see everyone, which is really cool. I don't have a one-sided opinion
Yeah.
on who is better, who is worse. I don't have that luxury, but I do have the luxury of what's working best, because we could all have the same solution to fix a problem in engineering.
What are some of the dangers do you see in the near future if we keep expanding in the AI self-driving lane?
That's a good question. I think something that you really haven't seen is encrypting a car. So something that people haven't really started to see is, could you imagine if your car was hacked and you'd have to pay €100 or $100 to unlock your car, and you're at a mall and you need to get home and there's no way. And there's a lot of things we haven't really considered that happened in computers. Trojan horses, encrypting of the vehicle, a lot of things that have not been really forecasted or seen that could be coming. I cannot neither confirm or deny that's currently happening, but that's something to forecast.
Yes.
And I mean, from your standpoint, why do you think there's, a consumer pushback?
On autonomous vehicles, autonomy,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
I think we're just not ready. I don't think our roads are ready. I think if you hit a pothole in Chicago, it's different than hitting a pothole in Florida. I think
Mhm.
street lights in Detroit don't all work, and street lights in New York, work too good. We don't have that depth perception. I don't think we calculated how hard it was going to be.
Mhm.
We overestimated and underdelivered. I think that's what happened.
Gotcha. Awesome. Well, I don't know about you, Mohammed, but I think we covered pretty much everything.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, well, I can sit here and talk forever.
Yeah.
I don't think David has all that time. You gotta pass the degree to look for you. You have a career to go for.
Well, a couple questions for you guys. So, what got you excited about cybersecurity since we're talking?
Yeah, so just to make things clear, Kaysen is in marketing and I'm in cybersecurity.
Oh, understood. Okay. Super cool.
Mhm.
I have actually a beautiful story. It's very funny. So I grew up, and I was born in Ann Arbor, Michigan, in 2010. Around 10 years old. We come back to Mount Jordan. We live with our extended family, uncles and aunts, and grandfathers, grandmothers. Once we finished 18, our 12th grade, we come back to Michigan, pursue our education, job markets, all that stuff. I never seen a computer in that 8 years or 10 years I lived in Mount Jordan. There are computers in the school, but you're talking about the ones from the 70s or I'm sorry, from the 80s or 90s. Those big old fat ones, and you got to turn them on. It has that jet noise making,
Mhm.
and I just never understood it. And I was like, oh yeah, computers, we're cool. Let's go play soccer or football, where we call it here. So I come over and I start in WCC, Washington Community College, my first year, and I have no idea what I want to study. I started, with the basic educational college degrees, and C++ comes around. I take it, I fail. I take Java++, and I also Java. I'm sorry, it was CPS 171. Yeah, and I also failed that. And I was just like, 3 years studying all the general requirements. I get in general studies because I just keep taking these general education requirements, and I have nothing. Like I don't know what I want to do. And I go and apply to Eastern Michigan, the College of Engineering Technology, just because it sounded cool. Game above college. And I get a call from a recruiter from a degree. And that was the first time I know that there's people who recruit for degrees. Like, I don't have applied to do that. He was like, there's this new thing called cybersecurity. I was like, it's 2021. Like, even someone like me heard of cybersecurity, man. He was like, no. Eastern is one of the pioneers of the field who created a bachelor's degree for it. It's always been either certifications or masters. And we have a bachelor's for it. I was like, cool. And he was like, he's still talking about cybersecurity, giving all these keywords, and I don't understand nothing. And I was like, hey, man, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know what I want to study. I can try cybersecurity, but I did fail C++ and Java. He was like, don't worry about what you failed. Our degree is a 3-year degree, would take you from zero to hero. I was like, cool. And I walk in and I fell in love. I at that moment, I couldn't I could barely understand. Like, I didn't know what kernel meant. Like the word kernel, for case in kernel is the
No, yeah.
system 32 for Windows. So in Linux is
Gotcha.
kernel, and Windows is system 32. Like the basic processor, right?
Mhm.
I didn't know anything like about when it came to computers, like virtual machines. What do you mean virtual? Like it's not there, but it's there. Like what are you talking about? And all this cool magic black voodoo stuff. And I just, I take it. I literally go from zero to hero, and from step by step, learning, watching videos. It's an overwhelming field, but it's just if you break it down correctly, and then only consume what you can chew, and not bite off too hard and get overwhelmed and tired and all that good stuff. You can really find yourself in it. And that's how I did it. And I'm hopefully going to I am certified Security Plus and Linux Plus CompTIA. Hopefully soon I would go for the CCNA, the Cisco Certified Network Administrator, or Associate. I can never, keep up with all the term words. And then, and also on the CompTIA field with certifications, just to expand knowledge when it comes to the field. I'm definitely with David. It's the networking, the soft skills and the hard skills. And when it comes to maybe case, then maybe you can expand a little on soft skills versus hard skills. You can vouch for soft skills are more important in your field, but in cybersecurity, it's both. It's you literally need 50-50. You
Hmm.
if you can solve all the cybersecurity issues in the world but can't communicate them, you're not gonna get anywhere. If you can communicate well but can't turn on a laptop, you're also not really getting anywhere. So that's what I love about cybersecurity. My personality kind of fit both. I love talking, but I love working remote. So that's a little
I mean, yeah, it's nice.
yeah, that says a lot about me. I love people, but I also love my room too much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm in marketing, and we actually Mohammed and I met interning at Ford,
Okay.
and so we kind of did some one-on-ones, meeting all the interns and stuff. We met, and then we ended up talking again and got this going. So
Yeah.
Well, that's phenomenal. I came very close to doing business school. I
Yeah.
was chasing the money.
Everybody does. Doesn't everybody really get really close to business?
I came very close to switching. I was at Michigan, and I was just like, I'll just go to Ross. I'll be a finance Wolf of Wall Street. I want to be
right.
that guy. And I was wearing the suits. I was hanging out at Ross Building all the time, hanging out. And then the math hit me, and I was just like, no, I'm good.
Yeah.
And so, they were pretty good at statistics. They could forecast. Some of their classes were a bit differently in the finance guys, the accounting,
Mhm.
macro and microeconomics.
Oh yeah.
It discouraged me a little bit. Part of me still wants to maybe do an MBA eventually, but I've done quite a bit of education, and Berkeley has very tested me. Being in the Midwest, top schools, University of Chicago, University of Michigan, Wharton School of Business in Pennsylvania, but being in Silicon, man, those guys are brilliant. It's yeah, probably top schools, Stanford, Berkeley, UCLA, top public schools,
Oh yeah.
in the country. So
Where do you stand on the MBA? It's and I remember back and forth there was that big discussion: is it technical degree or is it MBA? Is it technical degree or is it MBA?
you
Is
know,
it
it depends on your company. I would say what they tell you. So for me, I was like, hey, I want to make $200,000 a year. There's a number in my head to have kids, and they said, okay, you're going to need a master's. Like I can't get you there without a master's. And I said, should I continue as an engineer or should I continue as an MBA and be a manager? And they said, an MBA is like a golden parachute. You can climb over people who have no education, but to be an expert in your field, to truly be great at it, you should probably get an engineering degree and work your way through up the ladder. So the MBA does have this golden parachute where it is very well respected, and you could become, in a short period of time, a high level manager, possibly VP, director, to
Mhm.
president, CEO. Many CEOs carry an MBA, so that speaks volumes of the type of degree it is.
yes?
Yeah, that's good to know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Do you think the MBA was maybe old school? I know people who argue this a lot. It's like the upcoming years, it's
Mm-hmm.
not MBA. Like tech CEO, technical guys are like the newer generation. People like Sam Altman and stuff. They get to their positions with their technical knowledge. Don't invest in an MBA unless your company's paying for it.
I would say I would check with your company, see what HR says. They are the de facto because they're the ones who are going to write your paycheck. So
Exactly.
whatever your payroll says, if you have an MBA, how much will my pay go up? I would say I would get an MBA. But if they say you're going to get the same pay with a master's of engineering, and I can cross put you in different divisions, I would say a master's of engineering wouldn't be a bad idea. Or if you want to do a completely new role, you could do a master's of marketing. To have to know business and to know cybersecurity is very rare. It's not very talked about. The guy who can sell it and do it, it's kind of a rare combination. Most of us are introverted, technically speaking. It's a rare
Yes.
combination to have an extrovert who is technically savvy, who can do the work and sell the product. Rare combination. So you may want to get a certification in marketing, and you may want to get a certification in cybersecurity. You may both want to get what the other has and see where it
Mhm.
takes you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that was something I was thinking about because everyone talks about it.
Hmm.
A lot of people have mentioned maybe school isn't worth it anymore, or maybe certain degrees, whatnot. So I think you brought up something very interesting, because I thought about getting my MBA. Do I want to do it? Is it worth it? Worth the money? Whatnot? So yeah, thank you for that.
Yep, Casey, we got our questions all covered. Can we allow David to give final words of advice to the
Yeah,
younger generation?
yeah. So
Final words. Okay, I would say you're gonna hit um, a lot of closed doors. You're gonna be told no a lot, but you just need one to get you in the door, man. And then once you're in, as long as you don't mess up too bad, you're gonna stay there for a while. You know what I'm saying? So you got to get that first job in cybersecurity to really open the door. I've been told no that I couldn't get in. Even though I had a degree in it, I was told at companies, hey man, you're gonna have to work in a SOC, a knock. They told me different ladders to climb, and I was very persistent. I networked. I called people on LinkedIn and said, hey, there's companies I wanted to work for that I've had job interviews because I've contacted. I've contacted Disney. I've contacted many companies. I love the product. I want to be part of the team. Tell me the way. So it's the people. It really is the people that will get you the job. You could go to Harvard and not get a job if no one likes you and you got nothing to go for you. But if you got that letter of recommendation that someone who works there and has been successful, it speaks volumes of you. So it's about
Yeah,
the networking, in my opinion.
yeah, yeah, 100%.
awesome. Well, thank you so much for that advice. And again, David, thanks. We've really enjoyed this. Thanks again for coming on and talking to us. Um, and yeah, thanks everyone for joining Golden Ticket Connections episode 5.